Welcome to Grave Load, and let's talk a little bit about gaming. Now, the reason why I like gaming and I think it's fun, and I don't spend as much time on gaming as I like to, so now you're going to get a little bit of, hey, this is what's going on with it, and what I think is the landscape is currently. And by the way, for the next few days, Epic's free game is Civ 6, I think, Platinum Edition, all the DLCs. And so I picked that up, always wanted to play it or try it out, and I've gotten 10 minutes into it. That's how much time I had for gaming uh, in the last uh, few months. But hopefully I get some more time here in the future. I do want to build some computers and be able to do this. But, there's games out there that get put on your list, and you want to eventually play them, right? You want to enjoy them and be able to complete them, and I think that that's something that we all like to do. But the one thing holding us back a little bit is hardware, right? What are we going to play on? Is it a console? Is it a computer? And right now, if you're going for a new GPU, right, there isn't that, great sub $300 GPU that you're like, yep, that's the one. Somebody's released a really good value proposition, 16 gig GPU, good performance that you can get into, get that computer in for right around a console price for everything. And well, we'll still do that project, but really just knock it out of the park and be like, this is what we're going to go to, something to get you into gaming and basically start you on your PC gaming path. Because that's kind of how I started, right? This is many, many years ago that, my thing was is that, okay, I- I'd like to buy a computer, like to get something. So I was talking to my parents, right, spending my own money, and wanted to build something. But I chose the computer. I didn't choose the console. While there was other kids that may have gone into that console realm at school, I decided to go PC. I thought they were way more fun for me. I thought, building it's got to be fun, right? So I was in PC magazines, and this is kind of how I got into it. And with that, enthusiasm and stuff, see it's kind of been hurt a little bit, especially where the GPU prices are. You can't get a higher mid-range right off the bat, and that I think is just a barrier there that's hard to overcome, right? You know, you see there's the old GPU up on top here, right? The 8800 GTX, and that was fun, right? There was other GPUs I had back then that it wasn't always the entry level GPU. I chose, something in the middle there, something to get some good priced performance and something that I could enjoy the games that I wanted to play at the time. And here today, right, you can see that maybe some games are held back by, maybe the low end consoles that they're trying to do or low end hardware, or that high end hardware just isn't pushing it, and the upgrades of each generation of performance improvements aren't there. But overall, right, do we hold that just to maybe optimizations? I think that there's, you could say maybe there's optimizations, but I also think that hardware should be improving a good clip generation to generation. Like we should be pushing that side of things as well and seeing that hardware improvement. Now, we see, Sony's been doing, I think, a pretty good job here. And you can argue about the price, but you just take a look at where the PS5 Pro is, and overall, can you build a PC for that price that does kind of what the PS5 Pro can do? You have the PS5 and then you have the PS5 Pro. There's, a performance improvement with that jump. Xbox did not do anything this generation. And finally, Nintendo improved their handheld of the Switch 2 a little bit, and that's been selling quite well. So, and more games are going to be coming to the Switch, so obviously it's a little bit more powerful that it can also bring in some more demands of more games there as well. And when I sit back and look at kind of how this is, it seems like consoles are kind of taking a little bit of advantage, especially from the PlayStation and Nintendo side. Do we know what Microsoft's going to do? I was listening to Moore's Law is Dead. That handheld with ROG and Xbox, it's not going to play console games. That makes it kind of weird. What is Microsoft going to do with their platform and how to make this, make sense? That's one thing that Microsoft's going to have to iron out. Just having a added library part of, hey, here's your Steam libraries in the Xbox app, I don't think is going to be the end of making this be simpler. I think, they're kind of doing what GOG did. I don't know if how many people are using GOG. I tend to like it. And I do buy quite a few games from there when I can, and they're on there. But the GOG side of things, right? They allow you to add in your Epic Game Store, your Steam Store, and I think even has the Xbox stuff. You can basically have all your games in one thing. I think that's kind of what Microsoft is going to. So all your games are there. But if you bought console-specific games, where is that going to? And this is the mess that Microsoft just brought upon itself. It's just, I said in the beginning when Microsoft was kind of going through all this stuff and they were starting to talk about, hey, we're going to put games on everything instead of just our consoles and everything else. I said, you got to come out and, put some value to your Xbox fans. And Microsoft did not seem to, well, they probably didn't even see the video, but they did not seem to figure that out with every YouTuber out there that was saying you probably want to take care of your fans a little bit. They're the ones that have been supporting your console, your ecosystem for a long time. While you may be changing the publisher, you probably want to show something of how to, you know, give them something that they are excited about and that rewards them for keeping you in business for all these years and supporting you. But we'll see what Microsoft does there. I think that they're slightly misguided, a lot misguided in a lot of areas. They closed down a lot of studios, here, or some studios here lately with their layoffs. And that is concerning me because in the end, I'd like to see more games out, right? Just, yes, I don't have enough time to play them, but I like to see more games out because when I get the chance to go and play them, be able to, I'd be able to sit down and finally play them. Once in a while, I'd be able to play a game with my kids. Wish I had more time for that, but we have been doing extracurricular activities lately. But that's just one thing where you're going through, and that's an option. Now, there's also the whole side of games dyings. The Stop Killing Games movement has been going forward and been talked about a lot, and this is a good thing, I think, of just basically stop killing games, right? The Crew, right, that was just shut down just randomly. My perspective on this is that if a company wants to shut this down or whatever, you should have a setup process for somebody. Even you could open source the server side. I don't know what you want to do there. If you didn't want to run the server, you should make some way so that people can run a server, whether that be publicly or privately, so that they continue playing your game that you developed, right? This whole thing of shutting it down, I've said this before in other videos, but shutting down the artwork of games, or I consider a lot of game design and stuff as a piece of art, right? It's something I enjoy a lot, you know, way more than a museum of art, but it's something that I consider of, hey, somebody took some time, developed a story, created a game with the details and the visuals, and something I enjoyed growing up, and I like to share that with my kids or grandkids as, you know, stuff progresses in life and I get older and have more time, right? But if I'm not able to do that, I'm going to be kind of disappointed because there's a lot of that was just like, you know what? It was very enjoyable. I enjoyed playing it, right? And I hope it sticks around for the long haul rather than it be just lost and be basically just thrown out. I can imagine as a developer in these games that you probably, you know, don't like it too much when a lot of the stuff that you put your time and effort to develop, get it released, get something out there that people want to play, and then all of a sudden, yep, we're just going to throw it out, and it's not going to be part of basically history anymore. And this is one of those things where I hope that if Stop Killing Games can kind of prevent that, kind of hold on and, do this where companies are looking out of, you know what, we've done the right thing, we've supported our customers, and they've been there, and we should actually release something so that they can continue to enjoy it because maybe that'll make them come back. Because one thing you do, I see from this is while, people are like, I enjoyed the game, how much are going to go and be like, oh, I'm going to buy the next game, and now that they've cut off all support for this, I can't play it anymore. I'm so excited. I'm going to buy the next game so they can do the same thing to me again. I see it as bad customer service, and I really don't like bad customer service. It's one thing that really gets in my craw, and I let people know when they have bad customer service. There's been other stuff on this channel about bad customer service, and if I see it in person, I call it out there too, right? So, if the game developers are, I think probably more falls on publishers, and if the game publishers go through and realize, if we are able to then put this out there, make sure that games are playable, we don't kill them off, that's going to keep people coming back for more, and we're going to be able to have support for these games to be able to continue to develop and have customers here rather than making customers upset and then losing a percentage of customers each time we do, right? It takes an instant to destroy your, credibility and people, wanting to support you, but it takes a long time to build that back up and show that you're going to be there for the customer in the long term. Then you also have the differences here with just buying games straight out, where those prices going, and owning that game or having a license to that game, depending upon where you buy it from. And then you have to look at these Game Pass and what Microsoft's doing there, right? And is that sustainable for the long haul? You can take a look at it different ways. We got games, Nintendo especially, going up to $80 on their games, which, opens the way to the next GTA game. That one's probably going to be 80 to $100. I'm going to put it in that range. They can easily command that, especially with how much they sell of that game. So I wouldn't be surprised there. But is that something that would go into a game, Game Pass or something like that? I don't think so, because they can command and everyone's going to want to buy that and play that game. I think one benefit to Game Pass is a game that you may not play if you're on Game Pass, is that you can jump on there and play any game that you want, or that might be on there, and try it out to see if you like it. And I think there's, many people that have stated that, oh yeah, that's what I did. I know when I had Game Pass, I converted my Xbox Gold to Game Pass. I did play games that weren't, I would normally probably not buy, and I enjoyed them, and that's how it got me into some different games. And I was like, oh, this is actually kind of cool. So there is that option. It's just, is it viable for the long term for the Microsoft business model, what they're going to do? Now, if they do something and they convert and make this console, the next console, something where you, it's a console that plays, PC games as well, maybe you see an option where this is viable, and you make a console that sells a lot, maybe competes better with Sony this generation. There's a lot of options there. Now, with Microsoft's confusion, though, does that make a lot of people maybe sit out or delay their purchases of the next Xbox console if they come out with that? These are questions that will be answered in the long haul, but they're questions nonetheless that I think Microsoft's going to need to assess and see what actually comes of it. So as I'm thinking this through, and we're rambling, we're going on in circles, we're just talking about the gaming side here. There's a lot of thoughts I have on this, as you can tell, but I want to also know your thoughts. So leave those in the comments below of what some of your thoughts or questions that you want answered in this gaming sector here, whether it's console or not. I think that it's all kind of related, because I want a better gaming community, right? Better games, more support, more. I always want more hardware, right? I like hardware, but more games and stuff, and that it is supported for the long haul. And then, we take a look at some of the outlooks. We know kind of what Sony's going to do, right? They're going to have another console, and they're going to be. I think they're going to sell really well. They seem to hit really, and Mark Cerny there seems to do a really good job of making sure that each generation hits on some marks and does a really good job. Nintendo, they seem to be able to, sell a lot of hardware and even recover quite well. They have a lot of exclusives, and they do quite well. Your PC games, we're kind of sitting on hardware to see where hardware prices is, looking at used versus new, seeing where the prices are, and then we get our game library just continues to be able to progress, and we just add to it, and we have just a million games in our library and our backlog that we have to continue to play. It's really Xbox that is, we used to have a really, strong brand, and I think Microsoft has kind of watered that down in recent memory here and kind of stumbled over its feet. And maybe it's on purpose, maybe it's just we will need the finances to work after the ABK acquisition, and we're going to have to do drastic measures to get there. But they've seemed to also just not be able to put a clear message out of where they want to go. And maybe that's not until they finally get the next generation console out, which you'd hate to see because that's going to make their whole ecosystem, I think, dwindle a little bit more. And people are going to ask the reason of, should I actually be keeping my console? Or do I need to go to something maybe like a Sony? You could go Nintendo, but I think that that would be for a lot, mostly for their first party games. And depending upon how many third-party games come out for it, Nintendo has some really good first-party games. I, I mean, I had a Wii back in the day, and I really liked that. And I've, I haven't been back to one, but I really enjoyed playing on there. I kind of wish that their games would come to PC across the board. That would be kind of nice, but that's not there. And then you got Sony, which I think Sony's going to keep doing what they're doing. They come up with games, people are on them, they sell a lot of consoles, and they have a good understanding of how to make sure that this market is taken care of there and really kind of deliver for their customers. Now, you know, there's things over the years that you could get, Sony didn't do right, but overall, we're just looking at it. We're seeing where each kind of market is. And while I'm mostly in the PC market right now, I pay attention to the consoles, and I do have an Xbox, and that's probably not going to stay just the Xbox. We're probably going to build a computer here just to be able to try stuff out and see if we can't get close to like a PS Pro in price and see what we can game on it on a 4K TV, right? To be able to see that result, because I think that if we can get something close with some new hardware, I mean, we could also do it with used, but I think we'll try it with new hardware to see how close we can go, get some bundle deals, maybe drive to Micro Center, see what we are capable of. Is that, maybe if consoles go up to, $800 to $1,000, you all of a sudden make sense of, I can build a good PC for this, and it makes sense to jump in there. Now, where the consoles were a lot of entry points of that, $300 area where you buy that and then you're able to put on games, where is that going to go in the future? Does last generation consoles drop down to that to be able to support that? And that's a good question, because then you don't really have any low end entry areas for into PC gaming or gaming in general, console gaming, and that's a little um, interesting. Well, I guess you got handhelds, and maybe handhelds are the answer to this. Is that you get a $400 handheld, and that's the answer to all this. Which I guess it's AMD's got some pretty good chips that can be able to do this, but again, you're kind of changing the gaming market a little bit, but maybe that's the answer. Maybe that's what Microsoft's going for, and maybe we'll see something with that with Sony as well. I mean, they've been working on kind of like a low power, rumors it has it, I should say, is that they've been working on a low power setting so that you can go to maybe using a low power APU for a handheld that then also plays your, PlayStation games right on that, and you have just two consoles, which I don't think is a bad idea either, to have one on the go and the one underneath the TV, and you get that benefit of just a really powerful console versus the handheld that you could plug in the TV, but you also on the go have something, you know, that is portable. So with that, leave in the comments below what your thoughts are. Hopefully I keep rolling out these videos. I've been looking at some stuff. I'm like, I haven't done reviews on some things that I wanted to review on the keyboard here. Maybe I take you along. I was working on some stuff here. I have a bottom cover to a laptop I took apart. Was helping out a friend, and so it's like the laptop's not booting up. It was true. It was not booting up. Unplugged the battery. Finally got her. Was testing different things. Finally just unplugged the battery, and while the power's in, the laptop now works. So we'll see if it's just a battery. It was an Asus laptop, and so I think it's the Scar 17 ROG Scar, and so we'll see how that works. Maybe I take you along with one of these laptop projects I take on, or computer projects where I try to fix it, whether that is software related or hardware related, trying to diagnose, can see what's wrong, and then try to fix it. I mean, those might be some fun videos if you're interested in that. But leave it in the comments below on what some of your thoughts are on this, and some of my ramblings if you want to. Right, I'm here rambling, but I really wanted it to be a conversation of what you guys kind of think as well about games, of where the future is and what you're thinking should be going on. So I do appreciate those comments, and I do read them. Thank you so much for watching Gray Overload. Well, we're gonna get there, and helping support this channel. I really do appreciate it. And until next time, God bless.